Hello, so my name is Angel Rodriguez, and this is our final audiovisual that we had to work on. We were given four tasks to go through. Of course, the first one was the reflection. Before we jump into the reflection, we're just going to give a brief, summary of the objective. Was to develop focused listening and questioning skills through practicing and evaluating questioning strategies. Long story short, pretty much we were given this kind of like test to see if we were a little bit more quieter, to see if it would affect, the communication with a couple of friends, and see what the results would have been. Um, so that was what our basic objective was. The first task that we had gotten, of course, was to do our self-reflection. Out of all of the self-reflection statements, the three that are in gold apply to me. So, of course, the first one was I interrupt often and try to finish the other person's sentences. This is something that I do a lot, and it seems to be something that I don't know if it's just trying to get a word in or trying to carry the conversation, but it's something that I do a lot. The second one, of course, is that I'm impatient. I'm very impatient when it comes to anything. I like things to be fast. I like things to get done quickly, and it's just the way I've always been. And then finally, the last one, I think more about my reply while the other person is speaking than what he or she is actually saying. I've always felt that it's best to be prepared, but sometimes with that preparation, I don't actually focus on what the person is saying. But yeah, that was the part for my self-reflection. So for my second task, we were given pretty much like this experiment. My two subjects, of course, they're my friends, which would be Haley Henderson and Anna Zeisler. I felt they were good for my experiment because they're good friends of mine. I've known them for over a year. One of them actually used to work for me. The other one works next door to me. And the subject that we were speaking of was my friend Anna's trip to Vegas that will be coming up in October. So, of course, the objective was to be 20% quieter. So after being 20% quieter, they were very suspicious and concerned as far as if I was okay, especially since my sister just passed away. They were a little scared, which was kind of interesting. And it was just, at first, it was just kind of like I wasn't talking as much, or I would not go where they were. If they would come and visit me, they would go eat lunch, and I'd be like, oh, well, I gotta work. They found that to be very weird. So that was after being the 20% quieter. Of course, the topic of questioning was my friend's upcoming trip to Vegas in October. I've been there multiple times, but of course I didn't say anything because of the experiment that we were doing. So what happened? What did I learn? What happened to the relationship with my subjects? And other little challenges that had happened. So the first one, of course, what happened? Well, when I was over at my friend Haley's house last week, they were talking about the Vegas trip. And, my friend Anna had brought up that she had just bought tickets to go to Vegas in October with her husband. And that, we were supposed to just start asking questions. And it felt more of like like an interview as to like, oh, well, do you like it? What expenses? What do you plan on doing out there? If you've been to Vegas before. And it kind of at first felt like she was answering all my questions, and then she started to get like a little attitude, and she just kind of started getting a little snippy towards the end. So I think she just got annoyed. My other friend Haley, she didn't really say too much, of course, because she wasn't the topic of the question. It wasn't really much me and just my friend Anna going at it. What did I learn? Honestly, I think the only thing I really learned was that if you ask too many questions, a person can get annoyed or they can get frustrated, because it just seems like a one-sided conversation, like an interview. And so as far as what had happened to the relationship with my subject, they're my good friends. Of course, we're still friends, but I do plan on telling them after this the experiment that had gone on, just so they kind of knew, because I feel like they know something was weird. Um, so yeah, they know me a little too well sometimes. But the challenges that I had experienced was the fear of being actually yelled at the very end. Um, and just maybe like going too far into questioning where it almost felt like an interrogation for her. Um, and so, yeah, and then finally, did you find that it was hard not to continually respond with your own opinions? Yes. It was extremely difficult. Just felt like a one-sided conversation, It's me personally, I love Vegas and I've always had amazing experiences. So it was kind of hard not to share my opinion and say, hey, you got to do this. You got to try that. Or if you want to save money, do this. It was just like, oh, so where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? Do you like it? Do you think it will be fun? How did you choose this place? Where did you find this place? So it was just that one side. It was just me kind of like questioning again, like an interview or even worse, an interrogation. But yeah, that was the experiment for Vegas. So for our task 3, of course, we had to describe something that we didn't completely agree with, and I felt, we kind of brushed up on this in the last reflection, and it was something that I kind of had mentioned a little bit, and oops, go back. So of course, the most recent communication I had was when I had said in Unit 3's reflection of what will be a good example is Sally, quote unquote. I don't know if you remember, with her commenting on my sister's funeral that it's disrespectful to have colored flowers for the funeral. This was a situation that I completely disagree with, You can do whatever you want, however you want. That's how I've always felt. Unless if it's illegal, then don't do it. But this is one of those things where it's just the way it's said just felt uncomfortable. Just the words being that, hey, probably not appropriate to use color, But of course, the best strategy is just to stay back. Don't yell at them. Don't say anything. Just be the bigger person. That's how I've always felt. And just stay quiet overall. Let them say what they have to say and then just carry on to whatever you were doing. Unfortunately, it was a funeral. So we are locked in the same room for about 4 hours. But of course, the remark, it's not a good remark. Don't argue with them. Don't make a different agreement, than what they're saying. It's just better just to back off. Because it's not something that you're going to win, and of course you're in a very intimate and private and very emotional place. Her being my sister, being, her being one of my friends, quote unquote Sally, it's just best to stay quiet against them. But overall, that was everything for the audiovisual presentation, and I thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call me or email me. But thank you so much, and again, my name is Angel Rodriguez.